Alright lads, now I know everyone is trying to reach gold rank in Marvel Rivals. 80% of the players still have not done this yet, and every season there's going to be a special skin that you can earn. So it's well worth your time to get in there and try to grind this out. But also, ranked mode puts you in the pressure cooker. If you actually want to become a better player at this game, you're gonna want to play ranked mode, even if you're at the bronze level, even if you're at the silver level. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you 3 heroes from every class that will help you grind up as easily as possible. And it's because these heroes have very strong kits, very strong synergies, or just incredible solo potential to influence the outcome of a match. Comment down below who your current main is. Maybe it's one of these on this list. We'll find out. And be sure to subscribe for more videos like this, because in the future, I'll be doing tutorials on every one of the heroes in this list. And in fact, I already have a couple tutorials up right now that may interest you. But first, let's get on into these heroes, starting with the Vanguards. Now, when it comes to the Vanguards, in the lower ranks, my top pick for easy solo carry is Venom. And when it comes to Venom, it's not just that he has a lot of health because of his current synergy, 800. This puts him at the very high tier. It's also that his melee can hit headshots, which makes him very valuable when he goes down to his basic tactics. And his basic tactic really is to climb up a wall, find the supports or the squishies, and just dive bomb on them. And now I know that we went into the hero select on that dive bomb, so here's a better example. Boom, and then you tether them in so that they can't escape. And this will actually allow you to take them down very easily. And in the event that you do get low health, which you are going to get low health, because as a solo dive character, you're not going to be really relying on your own supports for healing. Your supports are going to be in the front line, backing up your DPS, backing up your hard shields. So you got to look out for yourself. And for every health that you've lost before you use this armor, you'll get 1.2 back. So this literally put me to 10-10. This put me above my base health level. And that's really why he's good. So the basic cycle is to climb up, dive in, fight until you have to use your armor cooldown. And once you're almost eliminated from this armor cooldown, you just swing back to your own healers and get a buff. And you just keep that cycle going, and you should cause enough chaos to where the enemy team isn't able to position themselves correctly, and you just swamp them. It's not really a planned role, it just kind of happens because this character thrives in the chaos. Now, the next Vanguard requires a bit more skill, but he is also very, very tanky. And the thing that sets Thor apart is not only that he got a 25 health buff this season, but that most of his cooldowns give him some extra armor. So if you use his hammer throw, you get 100 extra armor right there. But really, when you're fighting, you don't want to use that cooldown too often. You're really relying on your Odin form, I believe it's called, which also gives you 100 extra health. But it gives you a long distance projectile, and that projectile is actually very good at melting squishies or mispositioned support characters. This is something where, because you're able to dive in, lay an electric field, which holds them down and recharges your own hammers faster. And because of this, you're going to end up in weird positions where you're splitting the DPS and the tanks from each other, and you're able to just go behind the shield line and start focusing DPS and supports. And that's your real job as a Thor. And it's very fortunate that we got the ult, actually, because a lot of these DPS and supports have stun or movement abilities. So if they're backing up from you like this, you know, you do a lot of damage, but they run. You go into the form and you can chase them down and just get that free finish, because it's a radial ult. It's a big game changer. It's pretty blockable, but it also got a buff as well where you can't get crowd controlled out of it while you're up there. So your ultimate is less counterable than it was. Thor is probably my favorite solo tank to play. I love when people play Storm or Captain America with him. He's very, very versatile, but there is a learning curve. Be warned. Now, the final Vanguard is definitely the hardest to master, but I like using Magneto because I think he has the most influence on the match as a tank. And it's not that he dives in and squishes people, though he definitely has the ability to finish players off. And that really comes down to One, that his projectile does a lot of damage, and in fact, it actually explodes from a distance. So hitting characters further back makes it better, and it punishes players that have grouped up. But it's also that when he absorbs damage with his energy shields, it contributes to his cooldown projectile. And that pushes enemies back. This is really big for divers. That combo helps you to counter Iron Fists and Wolverines and Black Panthers because you just heal damage, you block all their incoming damage right there, and then push them back. And at that point, your teammates have figured out what's happening. You can communicate, obviously, by marking the Wolverine, but you gotta give your teammates time to capitalize, especially in a solo queue environment. You can't expect them to have your back instantly, and this gives him that little bit of breathing room to survive in a way that Doctor Strange simply can't. Now we have his hard shield, which does enter a bit of a cooldown. That's nice, but if you're going in between the cooldowns, like, you know, you and another tank, you're blocking, and then it goes down, you fall behind the other tank, buff him up. You keep this cycle going, you're gonna build up your piercing extremely high. And that's a very good cycle. That's why I feel like he has a lot of influence on the match. Let me mention, by the way, that these bubbles can block ultimates. I'm probably bearing the lead there. So if a Star-Lord comes in, a Scarlet Witch comes in, anyone else with a radial area of effect attack, you can block that and keep someone alive. That's where you have the choice. Because say a Scarlet Witch is coming in, I go boom, boom, and we both survive. If I do that with two tanks, or I keep a support alive with me, the fight just keeps going, and that's huge. His ultimate attack is also very good. I think people have caught on to the nature of it though, especially in ranked. If you fire at Magneto while he's doing this, he builds up damage in the ult. Though it can be broken, people don't usually coordinate fast enough to do that. This is something I like to throw behind the hard tanks into the supports or the DPS that's flanking. So you can see from all these things I've described with Magneto that he has a lot of influence on the match, a lot of choice on who lives and who dies and who gets eliminated. But he's definitely going to be the hardest one to learn of these three Vanguards. I'm going to get a bit freaky here and describe the best strategist first, because the strategist and the tanks have a kind of a conjoined effect going on. A good tank is only as good as the healing he's getting. And the first tank that I think is good in a solo environment is Rocket Raccoon, and people have clued into the utility of this character. Now on his face, people want to pick him because he has a freaking chain gun, and he can actually melt pretty quickly with headshots. And that's huge because some supports just straight up do not have headshots looking at you, Sue Storm. But it's not just the headshots, it's his healing ball as well, because the healing ball goes through characters and they absorb it in a way where you don't have to directly aim at them. It's actually got a bit of a buff this season as well. But above all of that, above his actual healing potential, is this freaking armor generator. And the armor generator not only buffs everyone, but if they die within the range of it while it's activated, look, it actually worked on the robot. It will literally revive your enemy, or it'll literally revive your teammate, and they go right back into battle, which is incredible. This will save so many fights in a solo environment, and I've actually had games in ranked where a solo queue Rocket, not me, has totally saved the game. We also can't discount that his ultimate is a damage boost, and I think people have come to appreciate damage boosting a lot more in Season 1. We were just learning the characters on their base in Season 0. Now that we're mastering how the character interactions play out, this damage boost will buff a Black Widow to a one-hit KO, and buff a Hela back to her old power level. It's huge, and it builds very fast because he's a support character. Support characters build ultimate off of their healing, which is major. I also gotta mention he has one of the best synergies in the game with Punisher and Winter Soldier, and when he's selected on the map, you actually get another cooldown, and it's an infinite ammo cooldown. So if you're having a lot of problems with hard tanks, you know, shield characters like Doctor Strange, Magneto, and you just need to put some damage into those characters, well, you got the solution here. Look at him. I love that the bots do this. The bots in the training room are exceptional. They're really, really valuable. But look at that. That's like 15 to 20 shots without a reload versus the 3. And with Punisher, when you use this cooldown, he actually becomes higher DPS than his ultimate because he doesn't have to reload. And it boosts his fire rate. It's pretty freaking zany. Rocket Raccoon is huge, but you do have to manage his cooldowns a bit. Just don't use him to fight. I think the trick is that people try to DPS with him, but he's much better as a backline buffer. Now this might be controversial, but I recommend playing Luna Snow over Mantis. And this is because Luna Snow has a lot of benefits of Mantis, but there's less to manage. The thing about Mantis is you actually have to manage an orb system by hitting critical hits, so you have to be a good healer and a good DPS at the same time. Luna Snow, it's a lot easier, and you're gonna have a dramatic effect, equally as dramatic. Now the thing to know about her is that she actually chains heals by attaching an item, this little snowflake, to another character. And this means that you can actually kinda heal your flanking DPS while you're healing your tank in the front line. And this makes her pretty good for doing some tricky plays. If you know that some people on your team, like a Spider-Man, an Iron Fist, you know, a Storm, some kind of character is going to be trying to flank, or they're not going to be directly in your line of sight, this is a good way to still support them. And that's a big bonus, I think. It gives you a 2-for-1 effect as a solo queue player. She also has the stun, just like Mantis does, that didn't stun and just eliminated it. But it freezes your enemy, and this is really good for freezing the dive tanks, which is pretty necessary as a support. This can disrupt the Venom, though it's not going to completely stop the Venom. It at least gives you a chance to get away. And you have enhanced movement speed, whereas Mantis got nerfed this season, you still have your ice skates, so you can escape much easier than a Mantis can. And obviously, the big thing about her is her ultimate, and it actually lasts 4 more seconds than Mantis's ultimate. And that's another reason why I recommend her more for solo queue players. Sure, you have to toggle between damage or healing, but you're just more effective in the ultimate for longer, and if you get fortunate enough to have a Loki on your team, they're probably going to copy your ultimate, and that's like 25 freaking seconds where you're pretty much unkillable, except to something like a Magneto ult. I also got to talk about her synergies, because that's another big reason I'm picking the supports that I am. She enables the Namor to have an ice turret, and this little ice squid actually slows down enemies when it hits them, and this is going to stop the Wolverines and the Iron Fist from diving on the back line. So assuming you can get the Namor to play to you, you're going to be much more protected. With the ice turret and your own ice stun, it's going to be way harder for these dive characters to eliminate your supports. Now the last support I'm going to recommend, and this is probably also controversial, is Jeff the Shark. And I think most people would say Adam Warlock, but I think he's too complex and you're relying on your teammates to fulfill their roles with the synergy. Jeff the Shark is just dumb, stupid fun. Now, he doesn't actually have the best healing, and the fact that your teammates need to be in a line for you to heal them is a bit detrimental. You can lay down these orbs that increase their movement speed. I think that's an underrated bonus of them more than the healing, but what makes him great for solo play is that he has the best escape of any support in the game. He just goes into the ground, goes away, and he also heals while doing this. And if you're solo queuing as support, literally the most important thing is that you stay alive. If you are in the middle of a battle and it's not going well, and you can't heal the person out of it, you surviving and like going to another fight that's happening on the side, just to keep the ball rolling, maybe you're on a capture point and it's contested, it's overtime, that escape into just healing one random person could delay it enough for your teammates to come back from the spawn. Maybe they get a res from another character. There's a million things that could happen in this game, but simply surviving as support is so valuable and people underrate that tactic. Now, obviously, we have to talk about his ultimate, and his ultimate has gotten a bit of a nerf, but it's still freaking dominant, especially on capture point maps. You just dive in the ground, and you can actually move around with this, by the way. You can activate this in safety, and then come in. Boom, snatch him up. And everyone has fallen victim to a Jeff ult. He's going to carry you to the edge of the map, or he's going to carry you into the back line of his team, and they're probably going to eliminate you off of that. And as broken as it is, as much as we complain about it, if you're solo queuing as a support, you just want to use some of the, most meta shit in the game, and that is absolutely meta. I should also mention of these supports, he actually synergizes with Luna Snow. And by eating a frozen fish, it's going to enhance his projectile and make it do some radial damage. And this is big. You know, it can get a couple of eliminations, but don't go crazy with this. If Jeff the Shark isn't focusing on his healing over here, people are going to get eliminated, and that's ultimately going to cost you the battles. Now let's talk about the Duelist heroes, and this is going to be by far the most opinionated section. As you can see, there are more characters here than the other roles combined. But playing off the back of our Luna Snow support pick, I'm going to recommend you guys try out Namor. And this is actually a very similar principle to Luna Snow, now that I think about it, because you get a 2-for-1 effect. Laying down these turret squid. These turret squid are so valuable, and people in the lower ranks are definitely sleeping on them. I don't see nearly enough Namors being picked. They hard counter Wolverines, Iron Mans, Spider-Mans, Black Panthers. They're going to contribute a lot to your overall success rate. And by the way, if you hit a headshot, it just turns the thing into overdrive, and it becomes more powerful. So as you become better with Namor, it's going to be an exponential increase in your success. Let me put it that way. And since you're going to see a decent amount of Luna Snows, you also get the Frozen Squid, which I kind of foreshadowed. But look at this thing. It applies a slow effect. It allows you to have 2 turrets at once. And by the way, your other cooldown, boom, does like half life on a squishy. You hit that with a turret out, you see how fast this squishy goes down? You don't have to do much work there. And that's really what it is with Namor. You get a lot of results for a lot less work than you would have to put in with some of the other characters, especially the melee-focused ones. Also, can't forget his ultimate. You gotta aim it a bit, you kinda gotta be close, but this thing is good at knocking down tanks. It can definitely turn the tide of a battle. Not crazy like a Moon Knight ult, but still very effective. Now there's no denying that many of these Duelist characters can stand on their own, but the point of this video is to get the best results at the lower tiers, and something like a Winter Soldier, a Star-Lord is going to have a much higher burden of performance on you. You gotta aim. You gotta use your cooldowns correctly. You gotta be in the thick of the fight. If you're looking to hang back and just farm results, the best character for that is definitely Squirrel Girl. And this is a character that people were kinda keying on at the end of last season, but she got a huge buff this season that makes her undeniably A tier, maybe even S tier, if you can play her out correctly. And let's start backwards. It's really that the ultimate now targets enemies. So you see how it turned there, into the enemy. This actually makes her a much, much better crowd control character than she was in the last season. And I wanted to lead with that because that really is her best thing. This is a game-changing ultimate beyond the fact that she has a pretty decent escape in this jump. And she also has a snaring acorn, and this is really good against tanks that are trying to dive on you. So she has a little bit of everything. She's not overpowered, but she can escape, she can stun, she can eliminate a crowd, and then if she's hanging back, just flinging in these nuts. These nuts are absolutely zany. They do a lot of damage, and I honestly think next season these nuts will probably get nerfed. I'm almost doing half health right there, and there is a radial effect as well. There are some maps where you're going to do better with her, because some maps actually have stuff in the way, but the general way to play her is to just take a high ground and rain down just explosive acorns. And it's very effective. Sometimes you're gonna laugh at how easy her style is. As long as you don't get dove by something like an Iron Fist, you're gonna get a lot of results. Now, the last duelist hero that I recommend, and she's undeniably become a powerhouse in this season, is Storm. Based on her pro play, based on how she interacts with all the other heroes in the game, she's definitely someone you want to pick up at the lower levels because she's got a high skill ceiling. There's a lot to learn, but she's actually not that hard to perform with. The skill floor is rather low. So what makes her really good, and this is basically down to team support, is that this field here actually enhances the speed of your teammates while slowing down the enemy movement speed. And you can actually switch this to enhance their damage and summon little lightning strikes. Let's wait for it. You're gonna see a lightning strike here pretty soon on one of these characters. Maybe someday. Where is this? Maybe they don't read because they're bots, but there should be like little lightning strikes that come down. Her whole strategy is to hang back and up. And she's become preferred to Iron Man because Iron Man is, well, let me put it this way. Hulk is not as strong a tank as Thor. And people are starting to prefer Thor because he has multiple ways to buff his own shield, and he can punish the squishies much more effective than Hulk. On the pro level, people are banning Hulk and banning Iron Man because they have one of the best synergies in the game, but without that synergy, both characters kind of fall apart. Storm can stand on her own without Thor, and Thor can stand on his own without her. They just enhance each other. So her attacks come down to these tornadoes right here, these little wind discs she throws. And you can 4-tap a squishy with this. And that's pretty freaking good for a flying character. I think overall you have to do more work with Iron Man. Though he is a bit faster, you still get melted either way. So you want to go for the easier character that does more damage faster. She also has this other cooldown, which is a radial splash. But as you'll see from this side, her wind discs are actually piercing. So she can do a lot of damage very fast if she has the correct angles. Just cutting through them, boom. You see how fast you eliminate 3 squishies right there? It's honestly a little bit crazy. I expect her to get a bit of a damage nerf at the end of this season, but for now, she's going to be firmly in the S tier. And let's just mention, if you have a Thor on the field, she does get an extra attack. I don't think it's that great. I guess you can animation cancel. I don't know enough about her yet. I haven't put enough hours into her. So I imagine you're able to, like, boom. Maybe you can animation cancel this. Let's try to do it. I didn't really see a difference there. That's probably the weakest part of her kit. Like I said, she benefits a little bit from Thor being in the game, but it's absolutely not necessary. She performs all on her own. And of course, we have to mention her ultimate. These crowd control ultimates have become very preferred because in the support meta, you have your Luna Snow, you have your Mantis, and they just block out damage for an extended period of time. And the only way to really counter that is to dump your own radial damage onto them and just cut through all that extra shield, all that extra healing. If you put a Thor and a Storm ult in the same place, you'll destroy them. You put a Thor and a Moon Knight ult in the same place, you'll destroy them. It's kind of the way the meta works out, and you're going to run into situations where if you don't have these crowd control ults, you just can't break through and you will not win the game. And the great thing about hers is that you kind of disappear for a while. I think that's something that they'll probably change about her. Look at that crazy damage. And because she becomes untargetable when she goes into her ultimate form, which is kind of crazy. That makes it very free. With someone like Scarlet Witch or Thor, you can at least shoot them, you know? You don't even get a chance to shoot Storm. So maybe that would put her higher up the list, but the reason I put her at the bottom of the Duelists is because managing flight is a bit harder. You're working with another angle of movement, another axis, so you're going to have to train your brain to do that correctly. But if you got those skills, man, you will pay the bills with this character. There's no denying that. Comment down below which of these heroes you're going to decide to main in ranked Marvel Rivals pubs, And comment down below who your favorite character in the game is. What are your hopes for the future? Subscribe, of course, because I'm going to be doing more in-depth tutorials on every single one of these heroes and any hero that comes out in the future of Marvel Rivals.